very special guest joining us as we continue with our focus on India Revival Mission and how to really go about restarting our economy as Lockdown 3.0 starts. So let's say hello to Ashima Goyal, top economist and a member of the PM EAC right now. Ashima Goyal, starting tomorrow, we will be seeing some amount of relaxation coming in economic activities beginning in some parts of our country. But how do we go about this? What should be the priority? How do you see this helping our economy?
I think that given the total lockdown and how sudden it was and how disruptive it was, you need a phased revival because industry will take time to reestablish supply chains, and consumers also will take time to come back. In some areas, they will not come back for a long time. So I think the revival had to be phased, and we also have to keep in mind that the virus is still there. It's very dangerous, and we have done a good job in terms of keeping down our curve, the number of infections and deaths compared to so many other countries. So we need to keep that up. And therefore, again, we use technology, we use contact tracing, we use social distancing. And at the same time, we revive the economy. So all these things go together with this gradual kind of phased opening.
Yes, absolutely, because this is going to take some time. People need to figure out what the rules and regulations are, how to go about it, how to move people from one location to the other location. Even if the relaxation is there on paper, should we expect that at least a couple of weeks it will take for things to start reflecting on ground?
That's right. So that is what I said. You need time for all this to happen. And I think industry has already been thinking and planning since the 20th when the relaxations came in. So we should see more activity happening now. But eventually, people have to be consuming also. So some industries will do better than others. I think those that, of course, consumer goods, then home services, digital, financial services, and so on. But manufacturing also, I think in pharma and a lot of industry needs to sort of because away from, say, restaurants or travel will take a long time to recover or for demand to recover. So industry also has to restructure towards areas where there will be more demand.
Ms. Goyal, the Indian government hasn't really announced any big bang stimulus package like some of the Western countries have. Sure, there have been, set of smaller announcements that have been made. Largely, the Reserve Bank of India has taken the lead in coming out with some kind of relief for the industry. But do you believe that now it's the time to provide industry support? And what should be the size of this support? What would the advice to the government be?
Yeah, I think they have announced a number of things because there's a lot of uncertainty. We don't know the course of this disease, how quickly activity can resume, etc. So in the initial stages, when there's a supply disruption and then a demand disruption also, there's no use giving a demand. But now that industry is restarting, they need to come out with a package to support because they have had no income for a couple of months. And to start production, they have expenses. They've already been asked to carry labor forward and other overheads. So I think they need credit and other kinds of financial support. And the government they have been considering this. I'm sure they will come out with something because the government is constrained by having less fiscal space, but a sort of stimulus that works through the financial sector, credit warranty, for example, is something that will not immediately impact fiscal deficit, right? And if there is a recovery to the extent the actual liability that the government would have to record would come in the future and would be much lower than whatever warranty is given now, especially since if it works through the financial sector and is leveraged up an initial seed fund. So I believe a lot of this is being discussed and it will come out. We are seeing countries through the world have done this kind of thing. But in India, especially since we have smaller industry and we don't have a very well developed corporate bond market, finance them, they need more sort of direct credit from banks. And here a credit warranty should work, should help.
So, that credit warranty is one thing. Do you think that will help in lending more? Because right now, one of the biggest concerns is that even though the Reserve Bank of India has announced certain steps, the banks and the NBFCs are not giving money, are not lending at all. They have their own concerns, and perhaps justifiably so.
Yeah, so that is what this risk aversion, because they don't know which firm is going to survive, and therefore the government has to step in there and warranty that they're talking about, I think, 20% of credit warranty. So then they will take the first loss. Then banks are more reassured that they will not make such a large loss if they lend. But then they also have to evaluate the credit risk. As I said, some industry will do well, others will not. They have to look forward. Which industry has a viable business plan? And so therefore industry also, it is they have to think and adapt to the new normal and readjust their what they plan to do.
The other big issue right now is that while we focused a lot on the health aspect of it, more and more states are now beginning to raise the issue of focusing on the economy and needing the help from the central government. They're constantly saying that the center is not paying the GST dues, that the center needs to now give them special financial aid to battle COVID-19. What should the central government do at this point?
So I think all governments have a lot of unspent cash balances. They need to use their money more carefully. It's easy to ask. I think this is a general human psychology, whether it's states, whether it's industry. Everybody is asking. True, there's an external shock, but you also have to see what you can do. And the Reserve Bank has, immediately, it is the financial system which will respond. It is the central bank as the lender of last resort, in this case, first resort. Also, so they have increased the ways and means advance for the states. The states are able to draw money. And since the government, the center can borrow more, they have to come out with their announcement. They will be borrowing more because there will be a shortfall in revenues. And I'm sure they will share with the states. There is quite a lot of coordination what the state requirements are. Center has come up with the announcements of packages for spending on medical needs. And then they will come with a package for industry. Then they will come with a package to stimulate demand. And also, of course, transfers to sustain daily wage workers and those who have there. I think they have already done something and they will do more in the future.
The other aspect is, Ms. Goyal, that while on one hand we are talking about giving help to the industry, we are talking about relief measures, certain kind of incentives and tax relief to the industry. We are already beginning to see salary cuts. We are already beginning to see company looking at laying off people and a huge amount of job loss. Now, should we explore the option that if the government is helping out the industry, it is conditional, and that it comes with the condition that, okay, we're giving you this money, but then don't use it or don't use these schemes to improve your profits and your bottom line. Ensure that you don't then fire people and you protect the jobs.
Yes, definitely. I think help to industry should be conditional on preserving jobs, absolutely. And also, it should be temporary in the sense that they should not regard this as something that will be available forever. And therefore, as I said, they have to restructure their business very often in directions where it will be sustainable. So they must be doing all that. So therefore, a temporary thing reduces moral hazard, as we economists like to call it. And if somebody is giving you money and you're happy with that, why would you make sure that you are viable? That is what happened after the global financial crisis. There were huge packages and people just absorbed that without, and the government was left with a huge deficit. We don't want that to happen now. So therefore, any help must be well targeted. It must be transient. And it must be sort of self-limiting in the sense like these warranties. To the extent industry recovers, many of these will not become liabilities.
But can this be put in written, because right now it's just a government advisory and it's up to the industry. Now, while they say they're trying not to fire people or lay off people, if things get worse from here on, we don't know which way we are headed then.
No, that the only way to ensure that is to have an economic revival, because you cannot keep industry cannot keep people indefinitely on its payroll when it's not earning anything, right? So any such condition also has to be temporary for the period when growth is below normal. But after that, as I said, you have to give industry some freedom, because those who see a viable business plan going forward and are able to earn and pay their workers are the ones who will be able to keep labor. You have to allow resource allocation in directions where it can be used. You can't, otherwise we have what are called zombie firms. The firms are kept alive just on grants and they're not selling. They're not, a lot of our public sector was like that for a long time. And because of that, the government fiscal situation is so bad. So now in a market economy, you cannot sustain industry on, when it's not viable forever. For a short time, yes, when there's an external shock.
Well, appreciate you giving us your time and speaking with us, Ashima Goyal. Let's see where we go from here and how long it takes to restart our economy. Thank you so much for joining us.